The hits just keep coming for Boeing. We're going to find out the latest news on this episode of Taking Off. Hi, I'm Dan Milliken, and we're going to talk about the latest news. But spoiler alert, after the news reporting about Boeing, I'm going to hit on some issues that some of you might feel is political. So feel free to not watch. Or if you watch, feel free to add your voice to the discussion in the comments below. This channel is brought to you by sponsors like FlyingEyesOptics.com, where using our discount code, taking off all caps one word, will get you 10% off. Also, 67 Design, 67D.com for high quality American-made mounts for your car, boat, or plane. All right, let's get to it. Boeing has been taking hit after hit in the news lately. The LATAM Airlines 787 sudden drop, injuring a bunch of people near New Zealand, the United Airlines suffering collapsed gear in Houston, and of course, the door plug blowing out of the Alaska Air 737 MAX 9. And the fatal apparent self-inflicted gunshot of a Boeing whistleblower. A lot to unpack there. Here's the headlines as of March 17th, 2024. On Monday, March 11th, a Boeing 787 plunged suddenly in mid-flight, injuring dozens after an apparent seat problem, a seat switch, forced the pilot into the yoke, causing the plane to nose down dramatically. Initially, some outlets have reported a momentary loss of electrical functions, others a trim issue. But Boeing released a memo to their customers to immediately check a rocker switch on the pilot's seats. We don't even know yet if Boeing is at fault. But with all the other news, many are jumping on the beleaguered aircraft manufacturer. In addition, United CEO has given notice to Boeing that they are stopping their orders of the 737 MAX 10 as they expect FAA approvals to be very slow in coming. They are moving these orders to the MAX 9, so it's not a complete loss for Boeing. And of course, the previous hits. Earlier this year in Alaska, Airlines 737 MAX 9 had a door plug blowout in flight. In February, pilots of a United 737 MAX reported flight controls jammed as the plane landed Newark. And at the end of February, the FAA flagged safety issues with the de-icing on 737 MAX and 787 Dreamliner models that could cause loss of engine thrust. At the beginning of March, the NTSB said that Boeing has not provided the company records in the investigation of the door plug blowout. Also on March 11th, FAA Administrator Mike Whitaker pointed out numerous safety and quality problems that extend beyond the inability to just produce paperwork. That has led to a pretty sharp drop in Boeing stock this week. But one of the most bizarre and tragic recent news is the death of former Boeing employee John Barnett on March 9th. He was discovered with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mr. Barnett worked for Boeing in Washington State starting in 1985 and in 2010 transferred to South Carolina in the company. He filed a complaint with the FAA about metal shavings being left inside 787 jets during the manufacturing. And in 2017, the FAA ordered that those shavings be cleared before they could sever the electrical lines in the plane. When Barnett filed the complaint, he left the company fearing that he was going to be fired. He spoke out in public in the years since, sounding an alarm for the quality of the airplanes being manufactured by Boeing. He was even featured in a Netflix documentary where he talked about a change in the culture at Boeing from a family-like atmosphere to an attack the messenger style that has left many, quite frankly, afraid to speak up. And at the time of his death, Barnett was due to wrap up the final day of depositions for a June trial date in another Boeing whistleblower case. Barnett has a claim that Boeing retaliated against him, and Boeing sought to dismiss that claim, but it was denied in the court in 2022. That's the latest news on Boeing. Warning now, it's going to get political. But it's important for some discussions to be asked and some discussions made. Actually, it's not just important. In industries involving public safety, the stakes are huge, with the potential loss of many, many lives. Okay, some background. I've been doing corporate video communications for almost 40 years with a bunch of different large corporations as clients. I've worked directly with CEOs and chairmen and other C-level people and leaders of very powerful companies. This is a bit of an oversimplification, but I believe there are two types of leaders for the large publicly held companies. Those leaders who look long-term and those leaders who make decisions based on short-term issues. I had one client, a CEO. He didn't care about the roller coaster ride of daily stock prices. Shareholders and board members might yell and scream at him to fix it, but he was in for the long haul, and his company was extremely successful. And then you have the other extreme. That's the leaders making knee-jerk decisions and actions determined by the daily ups and downs of the stock. And these companies generally perform badly. Yeah, it's an oversimplification, but you get my point. And yes, you can bring this same parallel from the large corporations to the government, which I'll cover in a minute. With Boeing, why are they having such quality issues? Is it the classic case of leadership striving for profitability above all else? Their own bonuses and salary tied directly to monthly stock performance? Well, it could be. In these cases, you'll often see quality fall off. It's a natural evolution to performance pay being linked directly to profitability. The answer here would be for the boards of these companies to change how they incentivize the C-suite. These problems are not just Boeing. The Federal Air Traffic Control System has seen a sharp increase in near collisions. 2023 had incident after incident, which has led many to believe it's just a matter of time until tragedy strikes. Though Boeing makes products and the FAA makes a service, quality is quality. For instance, the Allegiant Air incident last July, when ATC vectored them into the path of another plane, the flight crew had to make a violent turn in which a flight attendant was injured so badly they had to make an immediate landing for medical treatment. Or the near collision in Austin, when the tower cleared a plane to land when another was just taking off, narrowly missing each other. Well, clearly, ATC's problem is not the C-suite being incentivized by profits. So the question of this video is why? Why are we seeing a drop in quality of manufacturing, a drop in quality of service from the air traffic control, a drop in all these things through all these different sectors? Okay, here's where I'm probably going to step on some toes. Some are pointing the finger of blame at the recent DEI philosophy being embraced by many U.S. companies. For those not keeping score at home, DEI stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I want to state here and now, I believe racism is stupid. It's evil, it's wrong, it's stupid. Remember this, I'll be bringing it back in shortly. Racism is stupid. But racism is out there and it is a problem. So for those on the more liberal side of this argument, let me make it clear by disparaging DEI, I am not embracing racism. I just believe that the solution of DEI is not a good one for the problem of racism. There's a better way, which I'll get to shortly. And for those whose blood pressure has already gone up a notch or two, let me state that with what's going on in aviation and other industries, and well, in our society as a whole, I believe we should be able to ask some questions about solutions that are problematic without being accused of problem deniers. Oh, you think DEI is so bad? Well, you're a racist. Well, that needs to stop. I can believe that DEI is not a good solution for racism, that there's better solutions without being called a Nazi. But in order to defend your solution of DEI, you must vilify anyone who dares to bring up questions. You see, in this country right now, we are led and governed by optics. Decisions are made not based on whether a leader believes something is right or wrong, but instead on how will this look? Whether for short-term rosier stock prices or higher approval ratings, does this action make us look good or look bad? Oh, and we need some good PR, so let's do something that looks good. And that's what's called virtue signaling. So are you confused? Let me give you an example. I've done some work in my job with climate activists from all over the world. They believe oil is bad, that the refineries are a major contributor to the greenhouse gases and climate problems that they see. So in the U.S., to look good, you slow down or stop the drilling and refining of oil. What's the result? Well, the globe is still going to use the same amount of oil. So instead of the U.S. refineries, which, by the way, are the cleanest refineries around the world producing the oil, the slack is picked up by other countries that are not as clean in their processes, leading to more greenhouse gases being produced. The exact opposite of what the climate activists in the U.S. are working towards. But it looks good to keep down drilling and refining oil in the U.S. So governed by optics, not by what you believe is right or wrong. And just in case I haven't been clear, Biden comes to office and reduces the amount of oil drilling and refining, which leads to dirtier drilling and refining around the world, which leads to more carbon emissions. But if he opens up the cleaner U.S. drilling and refining, his base screams bloody murder. So instead of doing what's best for the planet, he appeases those whose solution is just not a good one. But if you question it, you're labeled a Trump supporter, a follower of Hitler, dooming the planet. Why can't we just sit down and talk through good solutions for our problems? In the spirit of optics, enter DEI. Many of the top capital firms require DEI policies and procedures from the companies that they send funds to. So if Boeing or United or fill in the blank want to get some funding from a Blackstone, they have to have DEI policies and procedures in place. This means in your hiring process, you need to look for diversity, hiring people because of the color of their skin. By the way, racism is stupid. I'm not denying a problem, but this solution, DEI, is racism. Very clearly, it is not where you judge a person by the content of their character instead of the color of their skin. I've talked with some people in these organizations off the record about DEI and was told by one person in an aviation governmental agency who's been there a long time that it is not a new thing. The bar has been consistently lowered, in his opinion, since he started in 1990. It's just now, in the last 5-10 years, that we have a new label to put on it, DEI. I've had a corporate client that put a person of color in a key position, not for their skill set, but for the color of their skin. This person did not have the skill set for the position, and it cost the company dearly. And if a corporation wants to do that, fine, I get it. But when we get to arenas of public safety, the question needs to be asked. Losing money and causing people to lose jobs is one thing. Causing crashes that take people's lives, that's another. Are Boeing's problems the focus on profitability at the expense of quality, or the focus on DEI at the expense of quality? I don't have that answer, and it's probably a combination of factors, just like most airplane crashes. But the question needs to be asked and discussed. Lives are on the line. Okay, in the news lately has been a war of words between billionaires Mark Cuban and Elon Musk concerning DEI. Cuban supports the idea of DEI initiatives helping companies to hire the best employees and deliver the best practices, while Musk believes DEI is another example of anti-white racism, even going as far as to call Mark Cuban a racist. Musk further wrote, "Discrimination on the basis of race, which DEI does, is literally the definition of racism." Cuban's point is that he believes by extending the hiring search to include disadvantaged people groups, he can find more qualified employees. Opponents of DEI believe that in the hiring of a person based first on their race, that you settle for less qualified workers and thus have to lower the bar. Musk simply replied to Mark Cuban's defense on DEI with, "Cool, so when should we expect to see a short, white, Asian woman on the Mavs?" Mark Cuban didn't reply to that. This past November, Senator Ted Cruz wrote to the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, asking them to investigate The extent that these near misses are the result of a policy change from Obama on the hiring of controllers that prioritize diversity over graduates of air traffic collegiate training initiative programs, which resulted in thousands of qualified applicants leaving the controller pipeline. The Obama change was to introduce a biographical questionnaire or assessment, a BA, into the ATC hiring process. Cruz believes that the BA favors off-the-street hiring over graduates of ATC collegiate training initiative programs. Specifically, he said that the BA awarded more points for applicants who scored lower in science and were unemployed the previous 3 years. The BA has never been made public in its entirety, but portions have been revealed in court documents. And we'll get to that in a second. Cruz says it's reportedly asked applicants about their favorite music, about the colors that they like, to learn more about the applicant's background. It has also been alleged that the BA has sports questions to make it more inclusive. Personally, I think racism is stupid. And when it comes to these jobs where thousands of people's lives are at stake by the performance of these individuals, I believe that the highest skilled applicants should get the job, regardless of race. After Obama entered office, a group called the NBCFAE, that's the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees, started pushing for changes in the way that ATC employees were hired to enable more diversity. Committees were formed, studies were made, and in 2013, the FAA created a barrier analysis implementation team known as BAIT, not making this acronym up, to help push through some changes to the hiring process. Also in 2013, in the Obama administration, Michael Huerta of the FAA, through a study, determined that the current application test for the ATC, the Air Traffic Selection and Training, or the ATSAT, was a block to diversity hiring. The study showed that white people were passing at nearly twice the percentage of black people. They created the biographical questionnaire or assessment, and this resulted in a purge of many white students out of the Air Traffic Collegiate Training Initiative, or CTI programs. They had taken and passed the test, and now that test wasn't being used in the hiring process. Specifically, Huerta, through BAIT, introduced the pass-fail background assessment, the biographical assessment, with a greater than 90% fail rate that awarded points, and I'm not making this up. The FAA admitted to it in a lawsuit that I'm about to mention. They awarded points on factors like the lowest grade in high school is science. Other questions asked what sports they played in high school, how long they've been unemployed, like we mentioned before. The longer the unemployment, the better. Important questions for the quality of prospective air traffic controllers. When introduced in 2014, graduates of the CTA program had to now pass this biographical test in order to be considered. Prospective applicants who had scored high and even perfect on the much harder ATSAT were told they were out. In one case, Andrew Brigida, who is now the class representative for a lawsuit approximately 1,000 strong, claims he and the others were purged even though they scored high on the ATSAT but then failed the biographical assessment. By the way, those who agree with DEI and say that the claim of opponents that it lowers the bar is not true, let me point out in the court documents, the government admits that the ATSAT was too tough and that its weight in hiring should be lowered and the new biographical assessment have a larger impact. I don't care how you spin it, that's lowering the bar. And further lowering of the bar at that time, this is unbelievable. An FAA employee and president of the Washington suburban chapter of the NBCFAE provided buzzwords for the members that would automatically move their resumes to the top of the files. And it went further. This president sent voice messages to NBCFAE applicants advising them on the specific answers for the biographical assessment that they needed to have in order not to fail. An internal FAA investigation on the person in this matter was conducted, and in 2016 was cleared of any wrongdoing while confirming the actions I mentioned above occurred. Since then, there was legislation passed to ban the use of the biographical assessment as the first line in the ATC hiring process, but the damage has been done for that whole pipeline of ATC applicants. And I'll say it again, racism is stupid, and racism is a problem. DEI is not a good solution. It actually is a very bad one here. But there are solutions that we as a society should discuss. Instead of lowering the bar, can we not help the disadvantaged reach the bar instead? And I'm not talking about entitlements, because I don't believe that helps anyone. I'm talking about opportunities. Let's incentivize nonprofits and government agencies that are helping give opportunities to people from age 0 on. And for those that grab the opportunity, let's keep giving them more opportunities to reach the bar. But by no means lower the bar when it comes to public safety. And for those in the disadvantaged groups that got into a skilled position like the ATC based on their merits, I can't imagine the stress that they have from coworkers always wondering if you were one of the ones the bar was lowered for and that's the only reason why you got in. It's disrespectful. It's not right. Lastly, I've noticed on the aviation social boards, people bring up United Airlines quite a bit. And the CEO, Scott Kirby, made a remark in 2021 that United Airlines was committed to ensuring 50% of their graduating pilot classes would be women or people of color. And this has become fodder for comedians and people concerned about the quality of pilots. If he means that the priority is 50% of their pilots are women or people of color, it's dangerous and racist. If he means that the pilot school United operates wants to graduate 50%, that's another. And I'm all for opportunities. And I don't quite understand this issue. Does graduating from United's academy mean automatically a job as a pilot for United? If you know the answer to that, let me know below. But this needs to be discussed by both sides for the safety of the passengers. You know, I learn a lot by engaging with some of you in the comments. And if you have a civil, well-reasoned, researched point of view, I promise I'll listen. And I'll engage with you below. And there have been times that I've changed my opinion because someone made sense. But for all of those that basically, throw a grenade into the room and then run away, I probably won't engage. What I have found on this and similar issues is that there are some on the opposite side of the aisle that I can sit and talk with. But there are others who simply have no desire for discourse and simply just want to fight. I hope that's not you. We don't need any more fighting. Let's talk. And oh, by the way, it's okay to disagree. Well, that's all I have. So please support us by watching our content, unless, of course, I've just angered you and you've already left. But for those that have stayed, visit our sponsors like FlyingEyesOptics.com that I mentioned earlier, ClemensInsurance.net, Z-Vision, the brightest landing and taxi lights out there, Colton Mortgage, ColtonTakingOff.com for your residential mortgage needs, 67 Designs, 67D.com, great mounts, and Marshall Protective Services, MPSProtects.com. Links are in the description below, so please visit them. It helps support us. Thanks again, and remember, superior judgment trumps superior skills. Stay safe.